Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Morning Mindset. I want you to think for just a moment about that circumstance in your life that has happened sometime in the past where you were mistreated. And I'm not just talking about any old circumstance where you were mistreated. I'm talking about the one that sticks in your memory, the one that hurts the most, the one that perhaps is the hardest for you to get past in your day-to-day living. That is what I want to talk to you about today. Good morning, my friends. Welcome back. I'm Kerry Green, a retired pastor, and I'm here to help you get your mind aligned with the truth of God today. The reason I ask you about that circumstance, that situation that's happened in your life, is because today we're going to deal with it once and for all, I hope. You see, those kinds of situations come back to haunt us, don't they? They're the times where we know an injustice was done, and in this case, it was done directly to us. And we have a hard time getting past it because the wound keeps festering, and it keeps resurfacing, and it keeps hurting us again and again and again. I'm just going to pause and let that sink in for a minute. Because you know it's true, right? That happens in our lives. We all have been there. If there's one thing that's common to the human experience, it's that we've been hurt by other people. And it's hard to let go of, isn't it? Now, in our culture, even in Christian culture, this is often referred to as the need to forgive. You just need to forgive. I mean, how many times have you heard that? Well, I honestly don't think it's an issue of forgiveness. I really don't. The Bible, the New Testament, if you read very carefully, makes forgiveness out to be something where a person comes and repents and asks for your forgiveness, and you then extend forgiveness to them. There's only one instance where we can find in Scripture where forgiveness is talked about in another sense, and that's when Jesus is hanging on the cross, and he says, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." You see, no one had asked for forgiveness in that situation. And yet Jesus, being God, is having a conversation with his Father about this. And he's talking about a very different kind of circumstance, one where something was done in ignorance. And I realize I've just opened a can of worms that I don't have time to unpack because it's really not my point. My point is those wounds that we carry with us don't really need forgiveness. What they need is more faith. And let me explain to you what I mean. Let's look at 1 Peter chapter 2. We've been walking through 1 Peter, and we've been told here that we are to serve others like Jesus served us. And he's talking about Jesus' example of suffering when he was treated unjustly. Does that ring a bell? Isn't that what we're talking about? We were treated unjustly, and there's something we can't get past. He's saying, here's how Jesus handled it, and here's how you need to learn how to handle it. He says, "To this you have been called." This is verse 21 of 1 Peter chapter 2. "To this you've been called," and he's talking about enduring suffering. "To this you've been called because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example that you might follow in his footsteps." You see, Jesus is our example. So how did he do it? Here's how he did it. "He committed no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. And when he was reviled," so when he was called names, when he was beaten, when he was spit upon, when his beard was plucked out, when the crown of thorns was pounded into his head, when he was whipped, when he was mocked, when he was put on the cross with nails impaling him, he did not revile in return. When he suffered, he did not threaten. Now here's the key right here. When he suffered, he did not threaten, but he continued entrusting himself to him who judges justly. You see, he didn't put his well-being and his future and his good feelings in the hands of his tormentors. He put all those things in the hands of his God, his Father. He trusted that God is going to judge rightly in this. Now, there's more to say about this, and I'm going to come back to this in tomorrow's episode, but I want you to think about this. What would happen if you gave that unjust situation that you suffered to God fully, and you trusted him to do what is right? Join me again. We'll talk about it more tomorrow.